We've seen faulty intelligence trip up this country in the past. The same newspapers, the same intelligence agencies are now telling us that Vladimir Putin essentially intervened in our election. How can you convince someone who has understandably some level of skepticism about what the intelligence community is saying?
Okay, so first of all, they don't get everything right all the time. The Iraq 2003 was a big deal because it actually led us to war, unlike other intelligence failures, okay? The problem is that the intelligence community doesn't always make blunders. And from that experience, they actually learned. And if anything, they became more cautious. So what I witnessed when I was in the Pentagon, very often they would say, well, we have confidence, but they would be worried about saying we have high confidence, which in this case is what they've said. And even if you don't believe the intelligence community, you can have other people who are trusted, commissioners, for example, that are appointed by Congress, or members of Congress themselves, look at the intelligence and give an assessment. And that's why I think it's really important now, when people are lacking in trust in our intelligence professionals, we need to have a kind of an independent commission, a congressional commission, to look at the intelligence and to look at this case. They have a huge it's like a troll factory, they call it. They have literally these buildings set up in Russia where people sit at their computers and they tweet, and they have bots, they have sort of automatic messaging, and then they have people that they pay. I mean, they have Russia Today, RT America, you can watch it in your hotel room probably. There's Sputnik News, which I think you can also catch on our television stations. And then there's people, like this old established journalists like Larry King who go on RT, and we think, oh, well, he used to be mainstream, and I guess maybe he's still mainstream, but he's being carried by this network, which is a propaganda network.
Some of these people are friends of ours that go and work for RT. We ask them about this, and they say they have free reign to say whatever they want to say.
They probably get paid as well.
Sure, they get paid, but I mean, does the Kremlin have editorial control over the content in their shows, is the question.
I think that the Kremlin definitely formulates strategy about the shows, is my understanding, at least from reading people like Peter Pomerantsev and others who are, experts on the Russian media.
Should Americans be concerned that somehow Vladimir Putin has influence over Donald Trump's decision-making process more so than people who are more in keeping with the geopolitical balance that you described?
Yes, and the reason is because, first of all, his son has said that they get a lot of business from Russians and they have a lot of money flowing in from Russia or Russians. But yet Donald Trump hasn't released any of his tax forms, any of his financial data. So we don't know, or very limited financial data. We don't know actually what that means. Does that mean that Russians gave him money, lent him money, provided guarantees for loans that he got? So the fact that he may have these entanglements, plus the fact that he said he wants to cooperate with Putin, he expressed admiration for Putin above admiration for our president, which I find pretty horrible, given the fact that Vladimir Putin has, condoned and is behind a lot of brutal tactics, murdering critics, poisoning them in London, etc. So the fact that Putin is someone Trump admires is a cause for concern. Then, of course, he said he wants to cooperate with Russia. His advisors, they pulled the platform, so the position in the Republican platform,
That's an important thing, though. I noticed. So you had Paul Manafort, who was inside he was the campaign manager at the time.
Yes.
It was around the same time that Trump makes a strange statement, Putin, if you're out there, could you help me spy on Hillary?
Yeah.
And then they changed the Republican platform.
Hack in and get her emails. First of all, he asked them to do that. And by the way, around the same time, right before the hacks were released to WikiLeaks, Carter Page, at that time still a senior advisor on foreign policy to Donald Trump, was in Moscow. So he's in Moscow meeting with high-level Russian officials, and then the WikiLeaks, got the documents. And I had reporters calling me saying, we're hearing that Carter Page coordinated, told them to release them. I don't know whether it's true, but that's another piece of this that I hope the FBI is looking into. Also, Roger Stone, one of the campaign advisors to Trump, tweeted before WikiLeaks released the documents, something's coming. So they knew something, apparently. So that also causes concern for me because, again, I wonder how much are his advisors talking and working with Putin and the Kremlin, and then to what extent is Trump aware of this? So again, it's one thing to do whatever you can to win, but not with a foreign country. So I'm very concerned. I think we should all be concerned, and therefore we should push Congress to pass laws to require Donald Trump to release his tax papers. We should push Donald Trump at every turn to answer questions about his relationship with Russia, about what his advisors were doing in Moscow, during the period right before the release of the documents, whether they were involved at all, and really watch carefully what he does with regard to Russia in terms of his policies. Because what he should not do, in the interest of cooperating with Russia, is compromise U.S. national security interests.